We are going into an election year next year. And during an election year, there's a lot of campaigning, there's a lot of lobbying around sensitive issues such as transformation, migration, water reform, land reform, and labour issues generally. So we can expect that going into next year. There are a couple of policies and laws in the pipeline currently that are likely to be processed next year, either through NETLAC or through Parliament, and I would like to highlight just a few of those for you. The first one is the National Water Amendment Bill, which will amend the National Water Act, and the amendment bill has just been published for comments, and the due date for comments is the 16th of January of next year. So there are a few potentially problematic clauses, provisions in that bill. The first one relates to existing lawful use. So the bill provides that additional conditions and obligations can be imposed on existing lawful water users in order to protect the water resource or the environment. In addition to that, the volume allocated in terms of the existing lawful use can also be curtailed if the full existing lawful use is not utilized. Secondly, in respect of water user associations, there's a provision in the bill that will require all water user associations to have a clause in their constitutions detailing a strategy for gender and racial transformation. Transformation will be prioritized when water use licenses are issued. So currently in section 27 of the Act, there is a list of factors that need to be considered when water licenses are issued, of which transformation or redress is one. This has been the subject of some court cases, particularly the appeal court case in the Goede Wellington case, where the appeal court ruled that the redress factor in that list is only one of the factors, and that it does not have any priority in relation to any of the other factors. This will now be changed if the amendment bill is passed, because this provides expressly that the transformation or the redress will be given priority. The bill also makes provision for the reallocation of water by the Minister between sectors, catchments or provinces. The Minister will be able to declare certain activities as sensitive activities and can then also declare a 32-meter setback between the activity and the water resource. The Minister may furthermore review licenses in certain areas if these are considered to be sensitive in terms of the water resources in that area. Very importantly, the bill also prohibits the trading of water use entitlements. This once again was the subject of a recent Constitutional Court judgment, where the Constitutional Court ruled that the transfer of water rights and the trading of water was allowed in terms of the current wording of the Act. The bill now proposes that whilst the temporary transfer of rights will still be allowed, in the case of the surrender of a water use entitlement, in order to facilitate the application for a license on another piece of land owned by the same person, that can happen for a maximum period of 24 months, but no trading of the right will be allowed whatsoever. The second piece of legislation that I briefly want to focus on is the Aquaculture Bill, or the Aquaculture Development Bill. This bill was previously in NETLAC in around 2017, and it was then withdrawn. It has now re-emerged. The bill requires licensing and permitting of all aquaculture activities. So nobody will be allowed to be involved in aquaculture unless they have a license and for specific activities a permit. There is a transitional period of 2 years for people who are currently involved in aquaculture, and they will then have to apply for the licenses and permits within that 2-year period. The third piece of legislation that I want to touch on is the Tobacco and Electronic Delivery Systems Control Bill. That bill is intended to further regulate the advertising, the display, the sale of tobacco products, as well as smoking areas. And it has a big focus on the protection of children as well. So it is quite controversial in the sense that tobacco is still a legal product. These kind of restrictions don't apply to any other legal products, but there will be, if the bill gets passed, very severe restrictions on, like I said, the display of tobacco, the advertising, the branding, and all of that, which will make it very difficult for the tobacco industry probably going forward. Then migration seems to be a hot topic at this point in time. There are various policies and an amendment bill that deal with migration. In agriculture, there are a lot of migrant workers from Lesotho and Zimbabwe in particular that are employed. So first of all, there is the National Migration Policy, which is currently before NEDLAC. So there's also now a white paper on citizenship, the protection of refugees and immigration, which touches also on migration labour and the migration policy. And then lastly, there is the Employment Services Amendment Bill that is likely to be tabled in Parliament soon, and that deals with the responsibilities of employers who are employing these migrant workers. And one of the more controversial clauses is that the Minister of Labour will be able to set quotas per sector and per subsector of how many migrant workers may be employed in that sector.